what you're trying to ask is why am I so insistent upon giving out to them that blackness, that black power, that black pushing them to identify with black culture. I think that's what you're asking. I have no choice over it. In the first place, to me, we are the most beautiful creatures in the whole world, black people. I mean, and I mean that in every sense, outside and inside. And to me, we have a culture that is surpassed by no other civilization, but we don't know anything about it. So again, I think I've said this before in the same interview. I think at some time before, my job is to somehow make them curious enough or persuade them by hook or crook to get more aware of themselves and where they came from and what they are into and what is already there, and just to bring it out. This is what compels me to compel them. And I will do it by whatever means necessary. When I'm finished working, as tired as I am,
consciousness that we exhibit to a good degree at this point reflects the nature of the interaction we have with European people. And one of the major objectives of European people is to manipulate and control the consciousness of African people. And through their manipulation and control of the consciousness of African people, divert that power, which ordinarily would be the power of African consciousness, to their own use, and increase their prosperity and power thereby. The relationship then of the European man to the African man, to a good extent, is a relationship of Count Dracula to his victim.
What is good, my people? We are live back again with another live broadcast on the forecast. Shouts out to Willie Rivers in the building. Appreciate you for coming through, my brother. Now today I'm gonna come on here and I'm gonna do something a little bit different, because I want to show. So I was just watching. I wasn't even gonna come on here, but I was looking at stuff, and y'all know I don't get triggered that easily. You know what I'm saying? But a young sister was on here saying some stuff earlier that kind of triggered me because first of all, y'all already know how I feel about Ida B. Wells, right? If I had to pick a hero out of black people, it would have been her, to be honest with you, right? And then so now we have a young sister, right, who often talks about history stuff. I'm not gonna say it's accurate or nothing like that, or inaccurate, right? Because it's not nothing personal towards her, right? It's just the fact that like black people are so pitiful that we would take away our own heroes and discourage our own heroes. And if I go on, I didn't do that, but if I go, I better not see no video propping up no damn John Brown. John Brown was not real. If you gonna say whatever you want to say, right? If Harriet Tubman ain't real, and then y'all better not sit up there propping up John Brown like that was real, because that was not real. You know what I'm saying? And if any of y'all got a problem with that, you can definitely come on here to say it. And I'm also gonna say this, right? Because if you notice, I don't even get into that whole FBA thing and the arguments that y'all have back and forth with each other, because honestly, I think it's stupid, for real, for real. The fact that we do that. If you feel like you want to focus on a particular group, focus on that particular group. It don't matter what nobody else is doing, but we want to sit there and argue with each other, right? Now, yeah, there is a lot of misinformation on both sides, but that's the thing, is like I see clone activity on all sides of it. That's why I don't even really speak on it, right? Because people act like they can't understand what it is. But at the same time, y'all gotta realize, and I'm telling you right now, and you can come on here and say something about this too, that we are not citizens. Why would we want to oppose something that is built on our bloodshed, that runs off of our blood and our tears and our sweat and our labor and forced labor? You know what I'm saying? The whole industry runs off our prison labor, and you getting up early in the morning to go to work every day, you know. But anyway, my bad. Shouts out to my brother Willie in the building. Shouts out to whoever else may be in the building. Now, like I said, I'm gonna go through the sisters thing, and I'm all over the place because I wasn't gonna do this, and I didn't want to be on here super late, pulling up actual videos and stuff. So I just like stuff is all over the place, but we're gonna get to it. But we're gonna listen to what this good sister has to say, you know. But and I get it, you know what I'm saying? I know my channel has been blackballed for a very, very long time, you know, and I'm not getting the same kind of hits. And if I was to sit here and say certain things or beef with black people, I would get the same hit. If I was to make different decisions, and sometimes I do make different decisions, and that's another thing that I appreciate about Ida B. Wells, you know, because she sat there and like, look, if I had a better attitude and I wasn't so militant, I probably would have a better relationship with a lot of people, right? But I can't help but to let my militancy, I'm speaking for me, let get in the way of that. You know what I mean? And it's the weakness that black people display that is so irritating. Because how can you call somebody else out while trying to still be a part of somebody else's system, trying to be a part of the clog of a damn machine? You know what I'm saying? Instead of making our own stuff in the first place. Because as Malcolm X would say, how could you, like, when does a citizen need a civil rights bill? You know what I'm saying? Like, when does a citizen have to ask for a voters' rights act or a hate bill? Right, a hate bill that'll be used against you. Right, this is why I'm like, I don't even talk about no hate bill stuff and all that stuff. Shouts out to Karma 804. Now, I appreciate you for listening. I hope you stay and listen as long as you can. But so I'm gonna go to the video right with the sister here. So let's talk about it.
We talking about my girl Ida B. Wells. We got to get her up here. My girl Ida B. Wells, who was a Pisces, mind you. Ironic, her birthday is March 3rd, 1913. That's 3/3/13.
Now, first of all, she's already starting on some spooked out stuff, right? But and later on in the video, she says she realized. Well, I don't think she ever corrects it, but she reads that's not her actual birthday. So I don't even know why she's talking about she's a Pisces and 333. She was born in July 16, 7, 16, 1862. 7, 16, 62. Right? Not even a three in it. Right? She died in 1931, March 1931. Right? Maybe that's why she got it backwards or something she was talking about, but it's not March 3rd. Right? So already the information the sister is starting off on is not correct. And this is the thing. I don't understand why black people have to go after our own, like, first of all, did your school even teach you about how to be Wells? Mine didn't, for sure. They did not. Even when you go to the museum that's supposed to be great, like you see Bill Gates' name bigger than Ida B. Wells in the Washington African American Museum in DC, you know what I'm saying? And let me tell you this, I was the first one to say, like, yo, and it don't have nothing to do with what y'all talking about the term African American, because I'm like, yo, that's just African who's been Americanized, like Sheriff David Clark. That's an African American. He's been Americanized completely, right? And I'm not hard on the clones because I see it on both sides, and both sides think that the other side is the clone when they have clone activities themselves. And the whole time I get kicked out of both sides because you know what I'm saying, y'all think, oh, you're this, you're that, you know what I'm saying? No, I'm just not trying to be a part of somebody else's system. I would rather us have our own stuff. Like, it don't piss y'all off that y'all gotta get up and go to work and people can take money out your thing and you gotta do what somebody else says and follow, you know, not nothing against following rules, but somebody else's rules who don't even agree with you. Anyway, let's go with it. Let's go in.
Do you hear me? Her stars was aligned when she got here. And it kind of makes me think about my birthday. Because see, my birthday is
And that wasn't even her birthday, good sister.
1383. And my stars are aligned as well. So I'm just thinking about it. Like, girl, you was like a Pisces birthday twin, and you really was out here selling us short. Ida B. Wells, the purpose of today's Educational Friday is to give y'all the truth. Ida B. Wells, or your mama 31343. Okay, she aligned too.
And see, no, it was actually 7/16/62, 1862, you know. But the thing is, and this sister been recently been I've been seeing her do. I haven't really been paying too much attention, but I see her recently having this educational thing and saying certain things, and not all of it is necessarily true because you can't just look up something and just try to put a context in it from like when I put the it comes from like me reading from every year from on and on and on up until now, and a whole 10 years of everything that happens, paying attention to all of that. I'm not just saying something based off of something else, right? And going off of information that I don't know about. You know what I'm saying? This even shows you, right? Even though she's gonna like not even mention that she just says like the wrong birthday. She's gonna read the right birthday later. Right, but never like I guess correct it, and be like, oh damn, I was wrong about this 333 stuff, like this whole spooked out stuff that black people be on.
What happened to my hair? I don't know. I look a mess. I don't know, girl. I went outside. I don't know. Writing in her Ida B. Wells, the honorary NAACP, nope, the honorary Divine Nine member, but
Yeah, what up, bro?
NAACP founder. We already know if she's attached to the NAACP, it's some crap. Okay, now.
And see, this is the thing. We just look up stuff, and this is the thing that I be trying to tell y'all, right? Because you would throw away your own heroes because of how they're presented. They would present Ida B. Wells as this feminist and all of this other stuff when that was not even the case, right? How much she stood up for black men, how much she went against white bitches. She was the first to say all of this stuff that y'all saying, which we gonna show later because she keep mentioning, well, it's this way because of the NAACP, but she wasn't a part of the NAACP. She does know that, right? It says on the thing, well, she was a part of the creation of it along with W.E. Du Bois and a bunch of shysters, you know what I'm saying? But as we gonna see, right? She leaves out the fact that she was the first one telling you in 19 something, the first one who saying the stuff that we say today about the NAACP. It was her saying that. You get those talking points from her in the first place because she was like, yo, what's going on with this white leadership? You know what I'm saying? And we're going to talk about it because this is the thing that with black people that look maybe is a weakness on my behalf. I don't think so, but I don't have this integration, this thing in my body. I don't need that, and a lot of black people do. But how can she criticize it when she is on the same tip, when she would be on some quote on some integration stuff? When you sit there and say, oh, that's American, that's some integration stuff, But let me go through because I'm gonna get through. Her thing is 2 hours. I don't think I got through like 10 minutes, but we gonna go. I skipped through to try to get some stuff pulled up already, just to kind of show because I ain't want to be looking for it. But
Ida B. Wells, like the rest of these black people put in our history, we're taught was on our side. And whenever you go look up any Ida B. Wells information, it's going to tell you how she helped the stop the anti-lynching thing, or stop the anti-lynching. That's an oxymoron. She helped the anti-lynching laws by basically writing in her writing journals and her paper, whatever she had. She was spilling all the tea about.
now, obviously, she did not read any of her work for to make these judgments on because she don't even know what they are, right? Southern horrors, the lynch law. Now, she didn't pass any laws or anything like that, but she was the first to expose the real reason about the lynching, which she actually agreed with. Which I don't understand why she's still trying to flip the point, But it's like the reason I kind of get it, you know what I'm saying? Because we've been betrayed by so many of our people, but we've been betrayed because of the same mindset of thinking that we are a part of them, that we're Americans and all this other stuff, you know? Yeah, it's crazy.
About that, she did do that. Those things she did do, but that's not why she's famous. She's famous because she
That's literally
single-handedly was
why.
able to take Black women's suffrage and turn it into voting rights for white women in the South. And that's
Yeah.
what we're going to talk about. Now, I did see somebody on TikTok say that Nolan Wells is a descendant of Ida B. Wells. I don't believe that. Because Nolan Wells' mammy is the movement that we're dealing with. Remember, all of this leads up to Mike in the 60s. Remember, the 60s, but either way, somehow she found herself in the NAACP in the South where Black women were suffering bad. And she came in as a hero for Black women. Oh, yeah, we're going to make sure Black women get this. We're going to march with the Black women. We're going to do all of this. Whole time she was there to hijack the Black women's pain to help white women fuel their voting rights.
Now, and by the way, she's from the South, which again, she keeps saying she came to the South to do this to Black women when she is a Black woman from the South, literally. You know what I mean? And the thing is, like, because I've been trying to tell you for a long time, right? Like, and I'm still not hard on the Coons, you know what I'm saying? But when the Black leaders take these certain things, and when you say the lesser of two evils, but now they've taken that talking point and went to the extreme with it. You know what I'm saying? Where like, yeah, duh, there is no lesser of two evils, right? But if we know that, why are we trying to be a part of it anyway? And see, now they taking that talking point, and now you're looking for like it's like a witch hunt. But somehow the white saviors and the white allies were so good, you know, and they were always there, and those ones was real. But all of your Black heroes and leaders, right? Because nobody ever told me Ida B. Wells was no damn hero. Nobody told me that. I came to that conclusion from looking at all of this of all of history, you know, at least the last history in the last 700 years.
Mind you, also, this is all encompassing of the civil rights movement that we're dealing with. Remember, all of this leads up to Mike in the 60s. Remember, the 60s is the finale. For y'all who don't know how this thing worked as far as us being able to be screwed the way that we're screwed, the final boss, the finale came in the 60s. The civil rights movement was the cap, right? The civil rights movement was the cap to take the very last of what we had. Everything else leading up to it was to help take everything away from us. And I
see, and the sister, like, she's leaving the context out of it, and the context is important to discover how they did that, you know. And what happened in 1890 and 1900 is kind of far from what happened in 1950 and 1960, you know. And really, what they don't realize, it was the Watts riots and stuff of 1965, and Black people actually getting violent. That was the thing that made them pass the civil rights thing, because they just shot Martin Luther King in the face. But what people don't realize is the year before Martin Luther King got killed, there was even more riots because of police brutality and all of that stuff. You know what I mean? And that was a whole different kind of thing. You know how to be like, we like how we're different from that generation. That generation was different from her generation. And during that thing, they was like, how can we get these Black men and women from being aligned? And so they passed, like, okay, the civil rights thing, but what they threw in the civil rights thing was the immigration laws and stuff like that. You go back to 1954 and 1955, you look it up, it's the art of selling to the Negro, right? Where they was trying to integrate your money, not necessarily you, but what they were really trying to do was stop the uprisings. You know what I'm saying? Like, but anyway, because there was a whole, like, there was Red Summer in between all of this. There was a whole bunch of other things that happened in between the 1960s and 1900. Because I don't know if she's getting like out of was from like 1920s and 30s and 40s, right? But she was already had passed away by then, right? Because you're going as she's about to read, she was born in the 1800s, not 1913 and 333 and stuff like that. You know.
Ida B. Wells definitely did that, and we're going to get into it today. Now, before we do that, like I said, if y'all new to the channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, whoop de whoop de whoop. Okay, the city or whoever, and get the reparations so that we never go back and figure out who exactly we are. Shout out to New Orleans, girl. I sure appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you on your journey, girl. Call me. I'm coming to get my drink. Thank you, New Orleans, girl. But thank you so much.
And see, this is the problem with all these people that's now actually been. Because I tried to tell you, like maybe you got to take your wins where you can get them. You know, because I was an extremist and like I was talking crazy, but now more and more people, I'm still an extremist and still kicked out, but more and more people are like, oh, yeah, I'm starting to see now that Trump is in all. Like, how could you not see when Joe Biden was in office? You do know it was the same stuff. Like, how do I know that? Because I was still doing the same thing that I'm doing now and never had to show the same thing twice, you know? But anyway, like now is the fact that everybody now is quote unquote woke. And I guess we got to think uh good old Trump for that, you know what I'm saying? That now you're woke and now you're boycotting and now you're trying to figure stuff out. But before you start getting jumping off the roof, you know what I'm saying, you might want to examine history and not just look at certain things, but like go through the whole story, you know.
For sharing that. Seriously, we need more people to share their stories. This is what they don't want you to know about yourself, Black America. And this is why Educational Friday is so important. Because listen, these are the things that they hide from us. And this is why we do this. We got to. But all of Black America were not slaves. As a matter of fact, the number is very astonishing when people really look at it. It was more people who were not slaves, hello, for a long time than was. Okay? Now, why is this important? When Ida B. Wells comes along in the late 1800s and early 1900s, Black America has its own economy. This is the stuff they don't want to talk to y'all about. But Black America has its own economy. We got our own schools. We got our own banks. We got our own hospitals. We got our own post offices. We got all our own stuff. Okay? So Ida B. Wells and an NAACP coming along is good for the enemy because their job and their whole objective is to take everything we have from us and make us the slave and turn them into the owners.
Now it sounds like everything that because she keeps saying her and the NAACP, right? But first you would have to actually look up when the NAACP was established, right? When was it created, right? And before you even do that, so y'all should probably look up when the NAACP was created and see if most of the stuff that she said had anything to do with the NAACP, right?
Because remember, these white folks are just coming in by the masses. What else is happening in the late 1800s and early 1900s? Ellis Island. So you got broke, poor whites, sickly whites coming in through Ellis Island, but you got blacks who are already here doing a big one. But remember, what they're trying to do during this time is a wealth and economic transfer, right?
And the thing that and yes, that whole Ellis Island thing with the white immigrants, I think that was like 1895 or something like that. But what you gotta realize, that's been a constant thing in America, you know, with the immigrant, the whole illegal, the immigration thing, where in the early 1700s, where they said you had to be white to come, like the Irish would come over, and y'all would be like, well, the Irish was this and that, you know. No, they was not. You know, but there's a whole context to that, but I'm not gonna go into that.
Now in 2026, we're trying to reverse it and bring it back. But during this
Now the
time,
sister probably ain't gonna listen to me, but
early 1900s, they're starting to switch around this wealth / economic transfer. We need to take the money from them and put it in our pockets and then make them come to us. That was the whole point. Okay.
no, see, and no, that didn't happen until much later, though. You know, all right, yes, black people were starting to establish and create their own businesses. Many black people were still like poor and sharecroppers and all of this stuff, and many black people at this time was illiterate because of you know, history of everything that happened. You know what I mean? And like our communities at this time were being established. You got to realize, like, after quote unquote slavery, and there was the whole Reconstruction period, which was dismantled. You understand? And where a lot of black towns and black cities were under attack constantly, you know? And here is Ida B. Wells from Mississippi, right? I don't know what that has to do with Ellis Island in New York and white immigrants, but here she is in Mississippi, you know, going through that, right? Because especially then, you know, when her whole family died because of like yellow fever and stuff like that, you know. But this was like coming off the heels of Reconstruction and all of that stuff.
Okay? So when you create the NAACP, we already know that's not our friend, and you put all of these black people on this NAACP and put it in front of the people as if they are for the people, then the people are more likely to trust the NAACP, and that's an easy way for you to send in your Trojan horse. Use the NAACP to gain the trust of the people, and as soon as the people trust them, boom, you could run in and hijack.
Now she keeps saying, "Oh, her and the NAACP." Do you know why she even knows about that? Because Ida B. Wells was the first one to tell you this, right? Ida B. Wells was the first one to say have the very criticisms that we all have today about this. She was the first one to say this in 1910, right? And because she felt it was moderate and dominated by white elites, right? So and then they went after her, you know. But she gonna go into it, so or not go into it. Obviously, she don't really know, but she keeps mentioning it. So
that's literally what happened. I did see that too. Ida B. Wells has a project named, or had a project named after her in Chicago, the Ida B. Wells Project. I looked that up too. And I saw that they're saying that they named it after her when it was a nice area and the apartments were super nice and it was this, that, and the third. Don't believe that. She has a project, the same reason why Martin Luther King have a holiday. They get their holidays for helping the enemy.
now it was renamed Ida B. Wells later. It wasn't originally called Ida B. Wells something. It was renamed that later when black people actually made a push for that. You know what I'm saying? But you have like you go back, if you do go back and look at when these projects were first built, you know what I'm saying, that what they did, because most black cities were not destroyed by violence, you know, because I know we think that and we're a bit afraid, like if they make it they just gonna destroy. Well, they didn't just come in and kill everybody, but what they did was pass the Highway Act of like 1954 55 or something like that, and built highways right through the middle of cities. Like here we got Jackson Ward, which was the uh they called it the Harlem of the South, but it was Jackson Ward of Jackson Ward, you know. And they had the black businesses and it was a black epicenter. And they built the highway right through the middle of it. You can see it right now, you know, the old stuff that's still in the area, right? And the landmarks and stuff like that. And at the time, right, because this was a part of that, because I try to tell you that integration was a part of their plan. I say that. I've been trying to tell you that, right? Because they try to be like, well, it was black people trying to do this and do that. I don't think so, right? I think that that was their counter to the militant black people that started to develop in the mid to late 60s, you know what I'm saying? And the projects at that time, see, they was trying to get black women to go into these projects and be like, look, there is no jobs for black men, we don't have money, we don't have this, we don't have that, you know. And they say, well, we'll give you, you know, a free place to stay, free health care and this and that, and food stamps and all that, but you can't have your man in the house. So if this man can't provide food for you, what do you think that they're going to do? Right? And especially at the time, because the projects is not what they was in the 90s, what they were today, even though now they starting to get redeveloped and stuff like that. They were built brand new, right? And you know, there's a whole thing that comes after it, because when we talk about the whole feminist thing, that comes out, another wave of that comes after it in the 70s, right? But anyway,
That's part of the package deal, right? You come in, help the enemy, and the enemy will make sure you go down in history known as somebody who was for the people. That's a part of the package deal. Okay. So her having a project in Chicago, that don't make me feel better. It actually makes me feel worse. Now I know that you were a government agent because all of their agents get named after shit. Y'all ain't never peeped that? All of their agents get holidays and they start naming stuff after them. Okay. That's normally what happens. So Ida B. Wells single-handedly.
See, too many of us just take up something like she didn't like look up. Maybe I should have done that too because I don't want to keep going off of different things. But when did they call it the Ida B. Wells place? Was it that the whole time? Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so.
With the NAACP, she single-handedly bamboozled Black American women into using their energy to help white women and white people gain voting rights. And that's why we're here today. So let's jump off the porch and start to talk about Ida B. Wells. Remember, NAACP founder and also a D9 skiwee. She was a Delta Sigma Theta, honorary, yet and still, Delta Sigma Theta, literal skiwee. Okay, Ida B. Wells. Let's get her up here. It says Ida B. Wells, July 16th, 1862.
Oh, so didn't she say earlier March 3rd, 1913 or something? So she sees that's not true. Like, I guess she's not going to acknowledge that.
March 25th, 1931. They're going to always use the word in terms African American. Why is that, ladies and gentlemen? That is a way for the other Africans to tether on our...
Well, because Africans have been Americanized pretty good, you know.
History.
We
That's why
cloned
all
out.
of our titles gonna always say African American, even when they say Black American, they will always throw in African American as well because they need the Godfreys of the world to have a way to tether on to us. Okay, so Ida B. Wells Barnett was an American in.
By the way, normally I'll probably guess what I should have did the Ida B. Wells thing last week. So I guess this was on time. It was the universe telling me to do one to shout her out for her birthday. So we'll just call it that.
Investigative journalist, sociologist, educator, and early leader in the civil rights movement. She was one of the founders of the NAACP, and it says Wells dedicated her career to combating prejudice and violence and advocating for African American equality, especially for women. So let me give y'all a little tea on this. Think about it. It's the mind you. In this time frame, in the late 1800s, women in the top states, they can vote, but women in the South cannot.
By the way, that's not true. And she meant women in the North, not the top. Women in the North. But no, they could not at all. Like, even white bitches at the time could not vote in the North. So, no, that's not true. All right. White bitches got the right to vote in like the 1900s and stuff, like 1910s, like I think 1913 or something like that. But black women didn't get the right to vote, period, until 1965 or whatever you want to call it, right to vote.
Where they say Ida B. Wells was born at? Where they say she was born at?
See, she don't even understand. She is the black woman from the South. She said she came to the South. She's one of them. Like, she's trying to say like she's an outsider when she's literally a black woman from Mississippi. But she did this information but didn't know where she was from. You know, she's like, oh well, she can't. I guess she's thinking she's from New York and the NAACP was already established in 1862 or something, or at least in the 1800s. But it was not. The NAACP did not exist at the time, you know.
Hold on. Where was Ida B. Wells born? Ida B. Wells was born Mississippi. Oh, so she's from the South. Okay. She was born in Mississippi. So I'll give her that. She is born in Mississippi. I just found it odd that she did a lot of work down there. But remember, a lot of the NAACP.
Well, that's what she was from.
So
what else she's supposed to do?
The South. But either way, she joined the NAACP.
See, there was no NAACP in the 1800s. There was no y'all look up when the NAACP was founded. But then also look up why they had beef with her. because she was sitting there saying like, "Yo, what's going on with this? Why is there shysters in charge of it? This ain't no black organization." She's saying all the stuff that she has a problem with the NAACP about right now, but Ida B. Wells was the only one saying it, and back then, black people had a problem with her saying it. And this is why I be relating to her, because I'll be like, I be saying stuff, and then like people be like, "Oh, you're a extremist, you're racist, you're this," and I'm unreasonable. But then they turn around and come back later and come to the same conclusion, right? And I feel her because this is why the B was like, "Yo, I'm not good with friendships and stuff like that, and I mess up a lot of relationships because I be like too serious and too to the point." And I feel her on that one. That's why, like, it's personal reasons.
And she comes back to the South, and now she's here to help black women and get their rights. Now, black women have a
I
different,
come back from the
specific
South.
set of issues than any other people. They have a different set of issues than black men, and they also have a different set of issues than white men and black women. I mean, white men and white women as well. So if she's coming to the South to help black women with their issues, then it needs to specifically be for black women. But that is not what Ida B. Wells is here to do. She's here to pretend as if she's here to help black women with their suffrage, but she's going to use that suffrage and those black women's energy the same way we spoke earlier about how the LGBTQ community uses the black people's energy to fund and fuel rich white men. She's going to do the exact same thing. She's going to go to the South. She's going to find these black American women who are suffering and having all of these issues. And she's going to act like she's their friend, gain their trust, and then use that to help fund white women, okay? And help.
Now, all of what she just said was wrong. You know what I'm saying? Now she didn't go to the South when she's from, like when she is one of them. She's saying she went to them when she was born there in the first place as a black woman, right? But listen, and I get where this direction comes from because this is what I have a problem with, especially when we get mad like, oh, they taking our stuff out of the school. They probably should because they shouldn't be teaching you nothing in the first place, right? Because when we look at their articles and we look at their stuff, they're going to try to big it up like she was a quote unquote feminist, right? When Ida B. Wells stood up for black people, she stood up for black men. She didn't. She went at black white women, white bitches for black men. You know what I'm saying? The opposite of some feminist stuff. But what they're going to do is try to make her be like, oh yeah, she was one of the first feminine when she had beef with them in the first place back then, right? Because a lot of the white feminists was calling for lynchings and stuff. Because they wasn't that feminist. And they also disrespected the black woman and disrespected her. Now I'll tell y'all, and I told y'all before the last time I did it, right? Because my good brother came on was like, yeah, well, what about that? And I was like, you know what? I would sit here and tell out of and she probably get mad just like y'all get mad when I tell y'all about y'all stuff. But I would tell her too. Like, why are you going to the damn marches with the white bitches? You know what I'm saying? But that's y'all. That's how y'all be thinking. Y'all be like, well, quiet, especially in the night. Well, all we got the good ones, right? What about John Brown? Right? She probably would have hit me with what about John Brown? And that's the only thing I would probably say about Ida B. Wells. You know what I'm saying? Like this sister. Now, if I go through her channel, she better have John Brown was fake. If she's sitting here coming at Ida B. Wells, and she better not have no Harriet Tubman was fake either. You know what I'm saying? But she better have that. When let's go.
Them to get their rights, because remember, they're the ones in the South who need rights during this time. It said, let's get back into what she did.
By the way, who funded Ida B. Wells? Our fundings and pamphlets largely through black press. It was black people who did this for her and who funded her. Right. One sister who funded her was this sister. However you say her name, but it was this sister. She um did a lot of stuff to fund Ida B. Wells stuff, work and stuff like that. But I don't think y'all understand how it worked back then. Like it's not like she was like famous right away. Like she had a whole come up with it. You know what I'm saying? Um, let's see. Um, see when she was young, right? What she was doing, right? Not many black people knew how to read and write in the early 1800s, and she learned, I mean, late 1800s and like 1880s and stuff. And she became a teacher, and that was her original job. She taught at a black school, right? And the thing is, right? She used to go to church, and she used to always clash with the black preachers. Right now, she did go at the black men too, right? And she would write about how a lot of black ministers were messing with a lot of women in the church and cheating on their wives, and she would write about it, and then they would threaten her and get mad about it. You know what I mean? And so they had a lot of beef. So they also tried to cut her off. You know what I mean? But she was writing in like local stuff and like church stuff, you know what I mean? Like because at that time black people controlled our own press, and it wasn't like, if you could get a printing press or find a way to print it, you were good. So it's not like she was just already famous, like she was doing it for a long time.
Throughout the 1890s, Ida B. Wells documented lynchings of African Americans in the United States in articles through pamphlets such as Southern Horrors, Lynch Laws, and all its phases, and the Red Record, which debunked the fallacy frequently voiced by whites at the time that all black lynching victims were guilty of crimes.
No, no, I don't think she understands what she's reading, right? This sister in 1890 something would get on trains and to go like talk to the black people who've had their lynchings, right? It's easy for us on the internet, right? We on the internet don't do what she did, where we can just look up stories and get information and stuff. Like she went to the places and talked to the black people family and got the real story and would go back and get it published, you know what I'm saying? And first it started off as her local areas and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And we'll get more. I guess you're gonna
Wells
get into it.
exposed the brutality of lynching and analyzed its sociology, arguing that whites used lynching to terrorize African Americans in the South because they represented economic and political competition. She's right. They did, mind you. Did you hear what she just?
Yeah, did you hear what she just said? Not only is she right, she's the first one to say that. It's not like she was like she did something. She's the first one to be like, hold on, these white bitches is lying. Ain't nobody doing nothing to them. They're doing this because they're trying to keep us economically like hurt. They're coming after our economics. That's what a lot of these lynchings are about. They're trying to target black people, the few black people who are on their feet doing well, having businesses, who are competing with them. They are targeting them. And she is the one who put it out, right? As a feminist, calling out white bitches for lying about their lying ass rape culture. She was the first one saying that white bitches is the most dangerous species in the world.
Said? It says whites use lynching to terrorize African Americans in the South because they represent economic and political competition. Let's pause that right quick. Because remember, when we grew up, they told us everybody in the South was slaves. They told us all the black people in the South were slaves. If that was the
Well, no, this is 1890 something. It would not be slavery at this time. You know what I mean? And no, not every black person was a slave. Demar Vesey was in the slave, but he still led the slave revolt, didn't he? A lot of people had got free, and they still fought for what they fought for, you know. But the point is, like, yeah, you wouldn't even know like that was going on if it wasn't for her, right? The talking points that you use now, she said in 1890. You know how crazy you have to be to, or you know how on point you have to be to realize, because black this sister may have just now been realizing this information. I'm just now realizing it a few years ago, but she knew this in 1890 and was willing to say it.
Case, then why are white people lynching black people? Due to economic and political competition. That means that those black people were not scrubs, nor were they.
All right, by the way, if y'all in there, y'all should say something. Can y'all hear me? There's probably nobody here, but anyway, all right, I keep going.
Slaves. That means that those black people were more than competition. They were the competition. You see what I'm saying? Remember, these are poor whites pouring in from Ellis Island. They don't have anything. All they have is a promise from the American company, or the American company, that they will have their American.
All right. What up, Jermaine Thompson? Shouts out to you, my brother.
Dream. They don't have nothing. They coming in here, they getting new names, they get new.
Yo, my thing says 0 people on here. That's how I know I be blackballed. My thing says 0. I be thinking 0 too, but that's all good.
Identities, they getting new land, all of this stuff they're getting, and they're next door to black people who's doing extremely well. So Ida B. Wells is coming into a situation where black people ain't that bad off because white folks is lynching them for being competition. It goes on to say, it says all black lynching victims were guilty of crime. Wells exposed the brutality of lynching and analyzed its sociology, arguing that whites used lynching to terrorize African Americans in the South because they represented economic and political competition, and thus a threat of loss of power for whites. So let me say,
yes. Right, because no matter the odds, somehow black people are able to pull themselves up by their bootstraps time and time again. And this will come to the thing that I do disagree with the great Ida B. Wells about, is about like, yo, there is no convincing them. You cannot tell them anything. And this is why I be trying to tell y'all, like, why would you even want to be American? Like, it runs of our blood. Like, America, how does it get its money? Well, off of our bloodshed. Well, what does it do? Well, it keeps us locked up to keep prison labor high, and it messes us up, and we need hate crime bills, but we just know. Absolutely. Right? I'm not talking about the land itself. We talking about the system, or the corporation of America, the European corporation of America. That's what we're talking about. European ideologies.
another thing that's happening during this time. Right now in the South, in the late 1800s, and especially the early 1900s, it is predominantly black.
Yeah, that's who write the books.
The South is predominantly black American. They got some whites down there.
So what does the Ellis Island immigrants got to do with Mississippi then? So why is she talking about she had something to? I think she thinks she's from New York. I don't think Ida B. Wells ever. Well, she probably been to New York, but I'm saying she hasn't had nothing to do with New York. So yes, that's right. It was black people who was the majority, in places like South Carolina, Mississippi, and just like today, is a lot of black people in these places, but somehow it's the same song, same old song.
But it ain't a lot. It is predominantly black American. Do you know why this is? Because remember, prior to this, the Louisiana Purchase hadn't been made. So all of America is only the 13 colonies. That's New York, Virginia.
No, that's not true. That's not true. It was like 1811 when the Louisiana Purchase happened. This is like 18, like you see, yellow fever epidemic where she lost her at the age of 16 in 1878. That was, they already had that in 1811. So I don't know what she meant by that.
And all of them places up there, Pennsylvania and things of that nature. But Louisiana, Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Texas, none of this is America. And these places are,
but it is at this time. Yes, it is.
Americans already there. Never forget that. And these ain't no scrub ass niggas down here. Okay? I'm telling y'all the truth through the lies. So Black Americans are already doing good in the South. We're already outnumbering the clears, and we still do in 2026. They just lie to you through census, and they lie to you through them whack ass numbers to tell you.
Right. So why in the, you know what? We're gonna not say what's going on in Mississippi today, you know.
That we the minority. We are still the majority, and we've always been the majority. So now we're down here, we're political and economic competition. Not only are we political and economic competition, the white people feel like we pose a threat of a loss of power. Mind you, they don't have no power at this time. They're going into their power. But if Black Americans start realizing the play, then we may never get in it.
Wait, hold on. She said they didn't have no power. What is she talking about? Um, yeah, they did. The Irish had a lot of because I know she's gonna try to be like the I. They were a lot of the police. Like, what is she talking about? They were a lot of the police force by this time. I don't know if she's talking about like 1800, but I don't know how she could say that even then. Because like the Irish, you know how they were the ones doing a lot of the blackface stuff. You know what I'm saying? You know the blackface, they was the minstrel shows. It was a lot of the Irish and the shysters doing that. You know, so like I don't know what she's saying there. That's not
And
true.
this is why, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we have a whole influx of KKK.
Yeah, and yeah, she's saying they didn't have any power. Like I don't know what she like. The first Klan was made in 1865 in Tennessee. Right, and that was when she was 3 years old. This was after by this time like lynchings were at an all-time high because after slavery that's when they started lynching people, because before then they was not doing the lynching because you were somebody else, considered somebody else's property. So like yeah, they were I don't know what she's talking about, even the Irish, the shysters, all of them. Like they definitely did at this time, especially in somewhere in damn Mississippi, right? If you look at the movie Blood and Sign My Name, that was in Mississippi in 1960 something, right? You think they wasn't lynching people in 18 white they wasn't lynching people in 1870 something? Like, what is she talking about there? I'm not sure. Maybe
And
she's talking about something else.
lynching and rioting, all of these things. These are poor whites who want their piece at the American pie. And the only way to get it is from these niggas. You see what I'm saying? So now, we already have established that Ida B. Wells is coming into the South to help Black American women, but it don't seem like.
See, like, and the poor whites, like, the poor whites were the most violent ones. They were the ones doing the violence. Like that's the part that I'd be tripping. Like, yeah, most of whites was too poor to own. Well, yeah, they were the ones doing all the killing and lynching because they couldn't even get jobs because they would even after slavery they would hire black people. Well, they would re-enslave them really through laws, right? You can look up the 13th and all that stuff, but they would re-enslave them. But even if they didn't, they would hire them for a fraction of what a white worker, the same way they do with the Mexicans today. They hire them because for a fraction, and they put out this lie that they do more work, which is a damn lie. But it was the poor whites who were the most violent ones. Like those were the ones who were doing the lynchings.
We doing too bad, because honestly, Black Americans in the South are posing a political competition and threat and loss of powers to the clears. It says Wells was born into slavery in Holly, Mississippi, or Holly Springs, Mississippi. She was freed as an infant under the Emancipation Proclamation when the Union Army troops captured Holly Springs. At the age of 16, she lost both her parents and her infant brother in the 1878 yellow fever epidemic. She got a job teaching and kept the rest of the family together while with the help of her grandmother, later moving with some of her siblings to Memphis, Tennessee. Soon Wells co-owned and wrote the Memphis Free Speech and Headline newspaper, where her reporting covered incidents of racial segregation and inequality. Eventually, her investigative journalism was carried nationally into Black-owned newspaper. It says subjected to continued threats and criminal violence, including when a white mob destroyed her newspaper office and presses. Wells left Memphis for Chicago, Illinois, where she married Ferdinand L. Barnett in 1895 and had a family while continuing her work, writing, speaking, and organizing for civil rights and the women's movement for the rest of her life. Now, she's going to go off and do a whole bunch of other things. It says Wells was outspoken regarding her beliefs as a Black female activist and faced regular public disapproval, sometimes including from other leaders within the civil rights movement and the women's suffrage movement. That's a play. Listen.
Now, the irony is the ones who she had beef with, this sister would probably have beef with, for the same reason she had beef with them. Like, this is why I'm like, she may have not done her full investigation on this. But yeah, that's when. So, all right, and maybe she gonna come back to this, but now she married this brother. Well, she gonna come back to that. So did Ida B. Wells stand up for Black men? Yes, absolutely. She stood up for Black men, risking her life to dismantle the false narrative that Black men were commonly lynched for lying white bitches. Exposed lies, right? So I'm not sure where, like, how she would say she was doing something for Black people, where do I have this? Right. See, now when she was like one of her friends, right? Now this was her godfather, right? Now the thing that even started her journey was standing up for a Black man in the first place, right? What made her realize this is because her friend Thomas Moss had a grocery store, a Black grocery store, which was crushing the white grocery store, right? And so what even inspired her to stand up in the first place, not for white bitches or anything like that, right, was because her friend, her godfather of her children, was lynched because he was a successful Black man. And this is the lynching
So tasty.
of Thomas Moss, right? And this is something that they'll just mention, but I guess this is why we don't recognize it, because if you look at why they lynched him and how they did it, it is the story of America. And she realized that, she was like, yo, she took a second and realized that, and this is where a lot of the talking points that she's even coming up with now.
1892 in Memphis, Tennessee, a Black local grocery store owner, Thomas Moss, his two workers, Calvin McDowell and Will Stewart, are lynched by an angry white mob of over 75 men. They were beaten and shot so bad that they were unrecognizable by their loved ones. The lynching changed the Memphis and Black community forever, and was a reflection of the economic power struggle that still mirrors today in some places. If you want to know the true story about the People's Grocery lynching, then this is the video. Thomas Moss, a loving father and husband with an ambition to gain the American dream, was an established local businessman and mail carrier for his community. Black people were not approved for loans, trained or hired for most skilled positions, and because of this, they were easily marginalized in pockets of poverty. In Thomas's case, his community was pushed into a bad section of Memphis called the Curve.
Now, see, what they don't tell you is, right? This, when they started coming up with the white unions, right? This is when the labor unions and stuff, because even after slavery, they could hire Black people for like, if you pay a white person $1, you pay a Black person to 20 cents or something like that, right? And the poor whites were angry about that kind of stuff, which is why they were a part of the violence that they were committing. But then they also came up with these labor unions, right? Which is where you start seeing where they wouldn't hire Black people, right? Just to maintain their system. But at the same time, Black people started using their resources and all of that stuff within themselves, and start spending what money they did have within themselves. And so this brother was able to create a store, you know.
A mixed race area meeting an intersection that was surrounded by local gambling houses and liquor stores that also attracted gangs and tons of other illegal activity. Located directly behind the curve was the Black community. This was a location that a lot of whites started to abandon during the growing crimes. So it was the only area that banks would allow Blacks to actually own land to settle down as a family. That they would always be treated unfairly if they depended on the white monopoly-owned area, which will lead us to one of the heads of this system, William Barrett, a white grocery store owner that also illegally doubled it as a gambling house / liquor store at night. One of the most successful owners in the area served the community for years despite his illegally run business that brought out the ugly side of the nightlife. Frustrated with how his people were being treated, Thomas held a community meeting at his church and pitched his next business venture he got approved by the local officials, which was to open his own grocery store for the community. Thomas, with the support of around 10 other inspired Black investors, including Calvin McDowell and Will Stewart, Thomas opened the People's Grocery. It became an instant success. Thomas's grocery store introduced new capital in their community and also a sense of pride. His store was such a hit that it further helped the city of Memphis, which had already emerged as the 5th largest wholesale grocery market in the country. Now, with the local Black residents not having to subject themselves to mistreatment by the other store owners, it provided a newfound happiness to a community that was mistreated for so long. The new business venture also motivated them to build a new community even more. Unfortunately, not everyone was happy for their success, including the store owner located surprisingly right across the street on the curve, William Barrett, who not only relied on the Black dollar, and his store saw a significant decrease in sales revenue since the opening of the People's Grocery. With his store slowly declining, to make matters worse, he was fined regularly for violating the local liquor laws. Word quickly spread around how much Barrett was upset, felt he had fuel to throw against the store, raced down to the local police department and filed a case against Thomas and his business. A quick side note, at this time, Blacks were continuously and falsely reported in the local news as being violent, so any such complaints would be met as true with immediate force. The next day, Barrett, along with
which is why a lot of Black people started doing their own media and creating their own newspapers, right, to tell the truth.
And the Black teen in the initial fight, Amar Harris. The armed men didn't know they were officers of the law, being that they were all in plain clothes. After a short standoff, armed with guns, the upset mob tried to enter the store. Immediately following, the group of armed men opened fire, shooting several intruders. With a gunfight in tow, the group of deputies managed to snatch McDowell. One officer, Charlie Cole, armed with a gun, chased down a local mailman, Nat Trigg, who tried to escape during the shootout. As a tussle ensued, Nat managed to escape after Charlie was injured by a gunshot. The injured group eventually retreated back to William Barrett's store to seek medical treatment and regroup. Now led by officers in uniforms of the law, they made their way back to the grocery store. Soon as the men inside the store noticed officers heading their way, they dropped their weapons and surrendered, confident they would be dismissed of any wrongdoing proven in self-defense. The next morning, the newspaper reported the incident as a cold-blooded, calculated ambush by Blacks that were awaiting the judge's update on the Black people, including the teen in the fight, Amar Harris, along with his mother who fought the arresting officers, Nat Trigg, Will Stewart, Thomas Moss, who pushed back at the mob, voicing his frustration.
So you see, right, at the time, right, they had these white, just like they got the other people businesses in our communities now, and Black people was like, no, we need to put our money and our resources together to start creating our own stuff, you know, to make our own stores and all that. And that's what they did. And this was Ida B. Wells' good friend. And when this happened, that's what started her on her campaign, you know. See, it's not just like, I don't know what she was saying about, you know, Black women. I mean, like, she's using Black women to further white women when she was standing up for a Black man in the first place.
Listen, they hired the powers that be, hired Ida B. Wells to play like she's the friend of Black America, right? And in that, remember, they're making her the protagonist. Now we need some antagonists because nobody's going to believe that she really cares unless she's up against opposition. So, duh, get other people inside the NAACP to say something stupid against her, get her to clap back, and now they beefing. So now it looks like, oh, she's really doing this by herself. That's all they're doing. But they're
Now, what was her clapback though? Right? Because it's the same clapback that you would use against the NAACP because she was like, it was too moderate, too cautious, and dominated by white elites. That's what she said. Isn't that the same thing that you said? Right? And so she grew inactive within the NAACP after 1912. Now it was established in 1910, right? And with the people like W.E. Du Bois, which is when she was saying, well, she went against black leaders, so established out. Now this is the black people that she went against, of course with the black preachers, but people like W.E. Du Bois, right? How she went against um I don't know a good video for this one, but especially from them damn white girl. But the same people that you would call out to this day, that's who she said, right? Um W.E. Du Bois and his integration and stuff, you know what I'm saying? How she went at him. Um Let me see.
I think we spent too much time arguing about Booker T. Washington versus W.B. Du Bois. Don't get me wrong, they're both important. Washington and Du Bois helped shape some of the biggest debates in African American history. But I also think our obsession with them has blinded us to other really important people like Ida B. Wells. Like Booker T. Washington, Ida B. Wells was born into slavery. She understood the dangers Black Southerners faced after emancipation and before. But like W.E.B. Du Bois, she believed in challenging racial injustice head on. Her anti-lynching campaign exposed racial violence not just to the nation, but to the world. But the thing is, she doesn't fit neatly into either camp. So when we center someone like Ida B. Wells, rather than just treating her like a supporting character, we start to see that Black leadership was never just about Du Bois versus Washington. It was always a much larger conversation. It involved activists, journalists, educators, club women, ministers, labor organizers.
Oh, or RBG. Guess who was the first to say that W.E. Du Bois is tripping? It was the great Ida B. Wells. All of the stuff that y'all saying to right now, right? That's what she was saying to W.E. Du Bois at that time, right? See, when the sister was saying, well, she went against black leadership, this is who the leaders she went against, the very people that you would go against, and saying the same talking points that you maybe that's where you got it from in the first place. Right? I hate to use this white girl to do it, but I mean I don't feel like looking for no video. Because this is the point.
African Americans is
Neanderthals, white bitches like this, if you look up their information in their articles, they're going to try to portray her as like, oh, they loved everybody. See, they're not going to even tell you about the three sides of Martin Luther King, the beginning, when he was like probably a young black man, like, yo, this ain't right. The second part where it was kind of questionable. But then the third part where he was like, yo, I went into the burning building, right? And the beginning, they wouldn't tell you that he was getting the deacons of defense to be armed security for his marches or carry guns himself. Right? They'll show you the part where he go to the Watts riot and try to tell him to calm down. Right? But they won't show you to be like, whoa, I feel like I put my people in the burning because the way that they depict history is to uplift themselves. You know what I'm saying? I agree with that. And see, well, she had a black husband. And the thing is, right? The one, like I said, the thing that I disagree with her about would be when she was trying to walk with the white bitches, but let's not act like I'm well with the sister is acting like she was just working for them, you know. So, but we can't really use this white girl thing. I'm trying to show you. I don't know where if they have one. There's too many of them making this, right? And a part of why he was going against her was, trying to silence her. But Also, let me see. I had thought I had the Booker T. Washington one. I should. Let's see. Um, I don't know where I got the Booker T. Washington one at, but yeah, she won that Booker T. Too. Let's see. I don't know. They was going at her, and this is what I was trying to show my brother earlier when I be saying that, because he was like, she was tripping because like, yo, we shouldn't be talking about this whole lynching thing.
So picture this. The Civil War is over, and for millions of
See, this is the problem when not getting the right videos beforehand.
Casual wish. He said it was a fire. This ambition that was with him day and night finally gets to Hampton. The head teacher, she's not so sure about him. She decides to give him a test, not with a pen and paper.
All right, anyway. I'm trying to find.
Main character.
This is something that I saw a long time ago. But this might go to a whole different subject. But
Economically and focus on ourselves before we can focus on the whites. Du Bois, how are we supposed to fight for our civil rights when we can't even afford our own homes? Other major issues we face include the separate but equal doctrine, a massive increase in lynchings of blacks, the general perception of black morals and intellects, and little to no enforcement of the 14th and 15th Amendment. I created the Tuskegee Institute in order to address these problems. By giving African Americans the opportunity to learn, they will not only be able to master the crafts that are essential for the oncoming Gilded Age, but they will also be able to expand their pool of knowledge up to par with the whites. This will allow us to create an economic foundation for ourselves, while at the same time, we will show them that we are not savage baboons, but we are fully capable of doing everything they can do and more. However, nothing can happen in the blink of an eye. Take into consideration how it took hundreds of years for us to be freed from the chains of slavery. This is why I asked for us to have resilience through this time of hardship. I understand that we were being heavily discriminated against and that we were being stripped of our rights. Attacking these issues now, without formal education and sufficient funds, will only set unrealistic goals that are unachievable in our current state. Now, I would like to address my other candidates. During the debate, Garvey said, and I quote, "African Americans have been enduring white supremacy for hundreds of years, yet whites still think nothing of us. How do you think enduring more will do anything for us?" End quote. During those hundreds of years, we were enslaved and had little to nothing. Times have changed, and now we have the opportunity to build ourselves up from the ground to combat these issues. My fellow Garvey, I must respectfully say that your campaign has many notable flaws. Starting from the top, your auspicious Black Star Line company had great intentions, but it was just a blatant ripoff of the White Star Line, which increased tension between you and a number of whites, to which you say, and I quote, "I regard the Klan as better friends of the African American race than all the other groups of hypocritical whites put together. You may call me a Klansman if you will, but every white man is Klansman as far as the Negro is concerned, and there is no use in lying." End of quote. And not to mention, you also blamed your Jewish judges for giving you the maximum penalty during your trial of mail fraud in your relation to the Black Star Line. Why should we believe in a convict such as yourself? To my other fellow candidate, Mrs. Wells, you stated that you are a Georgist, and if I'm not mistaken, you believe that all profits from farms and other produce should be equally shared amongst everybody. This solution is absolutely unrealistic and in no way would work out with the sheer multitude of people in the United States, nor will it fix the issue of poverty among our fellow African Americans. Another issue with your character that might be harmful to our fellow African Americans is the fact that you often got into trouble from a very young age. You managed to get kicked out from Charles University, be fired from teaching, and create a lawsuit against Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad, which you ultimately lost. Something else I would like to point out is that your first love, James B. Combs, had broken up with you, yet all throughout your 20s, you were skittish to commit yourself to a single man. If you cannot even bear the thought of committing yourself to a single man, how can we rely on you to commit your life to leading a group of people, let alone a race or even an entire nation? Also, your favorite subject of lynching has reached such a desperate point that you even suggested that a Winchester rifle should be used for protection, which the law refuses to give. And to my fellow candidate Du Bois, as I previously said in one of my pieces of writing named My Views on Segregation Laws, personally, I have little faith in the doctrine that it's necessary to segregate the whites from the blacks to prevent race mixture. I am for the integration of blacks and whites, but before we can do so, we must develop a foundation so we are not constantly beaten down by white oppression. I do not believe that we should accept segregation, only that we endure it for the time being until we reach a better position where we are capable to properly act against it. And once again, your campaign also has a number of fatal flaws.
Now, I get it, right? And this is a fatal flaw that I see with all or most black people today, even, right? And even back then, and I give a more of a pass the further back we go, right? Where we like, well, we just want to be equal. We just want equality. Oh, well, we just want what is right, right? Not we want winning. We want to win, right? And very few black leaders have said that, right? And yeah, I would disagree with Ida B. Wells in that position, right? But the way that they frame her in history and the way that we look at our own history, and I tell you what, if you say that, then you better say that John Brown was not real because he wasn't, right? And one thing that a lot of the brothers, even then and now, that difference, right? She said, yo, you need to have a shotgun in your home to protect you, right? And one thing that Booker T. Washington was saying was like, no, like you're getting too out of line, you're getting out of hand with this anti-lynching campaign, and you're gonna stir up the whites, and we need to find a better way to handle it other than arming yourself with a damn Winchester rifle, right? But I'm pretty sure, like I'm gonna speak for myself. I would agree with Ida B. Wells in that situation, and these are the leaders, the black leaders that she went against, and also, um, so even with Marcus Garvey, because y'all love Marcus Garvey, and Ida B. Wells greatly respected Marcus Garvey emphasis on racial pride, self-reliance, you know, but she criticized his ambitiousness after his Universal Negro Improvement Association. She warned him the Black Star Line shipping was too bold and unrealistic for the moment, but Marcus Garvey dismissed her. But what she did was work for him as a secretary, right? And she helped him, even though she may not have agreed with it. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, she was like, "Yo, I hope this thing works out," but I just don't. I don't necessarily have it. But they both worked together because they had black first. They was black only and prioritized black economics and independence and self help and unity. Right. So he invited her to his facilities, right, and she went and um they got into it over that issue, you know what I'm saying? But she always was like, yo, I love Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey is the truth, you know what I'm saying? So she always like showed super respect because they was on the same thing. Now I get the sister might not like Marcus Garvey or whatever. Um, but yeah, these two did meet. And another person that she met, which is like a side story. Um, Harriet Tubman um held, like, according to this, to a meeting that they had, yeah, like them together, working together at the end of the day, and that's the thing about us and our differences. We may have differences in how we see things, but the purpose is the goal. Now the problem is our goals may be different. A lot of us have a goal for equality and trying to finally get justice and make everything right, as opposed to winning, right, to creating our own, having our own stuff and never letting nobody else take it from us. And yes, I do disagree. And I disagree with every black person who says it, no matter who it is, including Ida B. Wells or whoever else. Harriet Tubman, if she's even that. Now, And the 1800s is a bit of different context, but I still don't give a pass. But anyway, yeah, Harriet Tubman did hold her baby at the National Association of Colored Women in 1896. Um, so, and there was many other great black women who were in the building, including Mary Church Terrell and other black women, Um, and Harriet Tubman was a guest of honor. So I just thought that was interesting. But anyway, I'm not gonna be on here too long. Let me get through as much as I
During
can.
the same time, because remember, yeah, we got our issues, but we must not be doing too bad if the white folks is lynching us for doing better than them. But Ida B. Wells, remember, they're going to write her into history as the woman who stood up for all of black women in the South. If it wasn't for Ida B. Wells, us blacks in the South, especially us black Negro women's, we wouldn't be nowhere if it wasn't for Miss Ida B. Wells. And I'm here to tell y'all Ida B. Wells is full of shit. Ida B. Wells ain't do a goddamn thing for black women. As a matter of fact, after she got us to put our energy toward it, white women and all women did get the voting rights, and then black women got tossed to the side.
Now, which is a fact, you know what I'm saying? But now I find it because black women didn't get the voting right until like 30 some years after Ida B. Wells. And like I said, like I would have told her at the time, why is you going down the march with them white bitches? Like why is you doing that? And we probably would have got into an argument about it and everything, you know. But I just be finding it ironic that a sister that be like, yo, we's Americans and we and like I said, I don't get into the whole FBA thing, you know what I'm saying? But isn't that what you're talking about? Integration? That's what the ironic part. I'm like, why would you even be against that? Because she's fighting for the things that you said that you want. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm trying to fight for a hate crime bill or whatever. They probably use it against you if I'm being real with you.
Usual. Isn't that always what happens? Y'all, you gotta understand. If America tells you to love someone from the past, you need to be doing your research. And the reason I'm saying that is because America is not designed to help blacks in America. That's not why we're here. That's not why the America that we know is here. The whole purpose of that America is to steal everything from us and to take. So if America's job is to take, then you can't believe that anybody they give us is our heroes when their whole job is to take.
Now, I'm gonna be honest with you. I was never, maybe it was me, but I was never taught about Ida B. Wells in the first place. And like I said, they gave her a picture in like the museum. Like they give other people like big ass exhibits and all that stuff. They gave her like a little picture in the corner or whatever. But they did, I guess they let her in there. But like nobody ever told me that Ida B. Wells did this or did that or that she was a hero or any of that stuff, you know?
To this day, they're still taking. So when America come to you and say, "Hey, Black
Did
America,"
y'all school teach y'all about Ida B.
you need
Wells
to be
and the
doing your
stuff that she
eyes like,
said?
wait a minute.
Did they teach y'all that she said that every black home should have a Winchester rifle in it? And did y'all really learn the stuff that she did? Or did they tell you that they mentioned her in passing and say she was a feminist, you know? And this is the talking points that is coming from because it's like they be like, yeah, she was a feminist and a great, like, yeah, the way that they try to present her, but that wasn't even the way that she was coming across. That's not even her message in the first place, right? All the stuff that we were saying now, she was saying then. Oh yeah, my school never taught. I went to Richmond Public Schools. They never taught. They never mentioned her one time. I did
Why
mention
would my enemy offer me a
certain
lead?
people.
Let's put our thinking caps on really quickly. If me and you beefing and I want you dead, why would I offer you a leader? Even better, why would I celebrate your leader with you? I want you dead. I don't even like you. I don't even want you here. Why would I give you a leader and then celebrate that leader with you? See how that don't make common sense when we put our thinking caps on? That's what we need to do daily when we're looking at this history, because when you do it and you put your thinking caps on, it doesn't make common. She has a lot of pictures as well, okay? Now, mind you, she was a writer, and she used to go by the name Lola. Now, according to what I read about Ida B. Wells was the person to expose what was really going on with the lynching. So what was going on? So you had white.
Now, and by the way, like I showed you, before she was going by like her pen name, she wasn't even writing about race things. Like I said, she was writing about stuff in the church, and that's when she had like a pen name and stuff like that, right? And she didn't really start talking about these issues until the Thomas Moss lynching. When her friend got lynched. So when she had that name, like most of the writings was about just random stuff.
Going around lynching Black American men for businesses, for votes, and all kinds of things. But they were telling the law and the rest of the world, oh, we're lynching them because they're bad, or because he stole, or because he did that. The same thing they do in 2026 down at the courthouse. Well, Ida B. Wells went undercover and described her as the name Lola, and what she was doing was basically spilling all the tea. So she would put out in her newspapers and in her writings, oh, girl, they lying. They not killing these Black men because of this, that, and the third. They killing these Black men because they got money. Or, girl, they killing these Black men because they got votes. Girl, she basically exposed those whites. Now, let me show you how cunning and messed up this enemy is. He set that up, too. Because, see, the enemy don't give a damn about the poor whites or the poor Blacks. He don't give a damn if whites kill Blacks.
Unfortunately, a lot of Negroes give a damn about poor whites for some reason. Irish and all that other dumb stuff, and Argentinians, and we give a damn about a lot of people but our damn selves. So, yeah. Now, like I said, if you read her stuff, like she wrote about it, and like she had like biographies and stuff.
He don't give a damn if Blacks kill whites. That enemy at the top just need all of y'all at the bottom to be wiped out. He just need enough of y'all to stay so that he can remain rich, but he need enough of y'all at the bottom to be gone. Okay? So now, another way for you guys to believe that Ida is on your side is to continue to apply opposition. Another form of opposition was Ida B coming out, being able to speak or snitch on the lynchings. Now, you got to know she's getting this information from an inside source. The NAACP. That is the inside source.
Now, the thing is, when she came out with the Lynch Law, Red Record, and all of that stuff, okay, it was 18. All right, when was her book? When was it was 1894, but when was Ida B. Wells' book, Lynch Law? Okay, it was 1894. Yeah. Okay, 1892. I was wrong earlier than I thought. 1892, right? And the Red Record came out in 1895. All right. Now, when was the NAACP AP created? 1909, right? So it seems that she did that before that even existed. You know what I'm saying? Unless she's saying, well, that's how, I don't know how you can, unless she's saying that's how it got created. But no, what she would do was go talk to the actual families of the victims, right? And she would take the report out of the newspaper. And if you actually read the Red Record, it's like she showed it. She shows what the newspaper said and said like, well, this lynching says this lynching says this lynching says this. But like when you actually go down there and talk to the people, they was like, this is what really happened, right? Because the Black community was saying, you think that she went down there and was talking to white, and it was like, yeah, let me tell this Black woman what happened so that we can try to just, they didn't give a damn. In the white newspapers, they would put it on like, yeah, Negro who looked at a white bitch, got what he deserved type of thing. You know what I'm saying? Headlines and everybody smiling in the thing. She went down there by herself talking to the families of the victims of what happened. You know what I mean? Like if you went down there and talked to Nolan Wells' family and stuff, or you went down there and talked to the white boys like the old boy did.
And they set her up to snitch on them whites, and it worked because black people, we still do this in 2026. As soon as somebody black do something good for us, we forget all rhyme and reason, and that person can't do no wrong. And that's exactly what happened with Ida B. Wells. When she started writing in her writings how white people was killing black people for no reason or killing them because they had more money, black people started looking to her like, OMG, that's our sister girl. She's on our side. But she was not. That was all contrived as well, in my opinion, allegedly, by the NAACP.
Now, and again, right now the NAACP was created and yeah, like again, I disagree with it, but by 1912, like she said, like by what 1910 or 1912, she was no longer in the NAACP, right? And it was only created in 1909, right? Because she said the same thing that we're saying right now, right? And they were dominated by the white elites, you know what I mean? Right? By the shysters, in other words, right?
Okay? They say Epstein's plane is named Lola. Oh, wow. Yeah. But anyway, that was her ghostwriting name, Lola. I didn't know Epstein's plane name was Lola. Look at what she wrote, some of the things she wrote. When I present our cause,
Was there a precursor?
editor,
Not that I know about.
or a representative of any moral agency, the first demand is for facts and figures. She also.
But the NAACP was in New York, and Ida B. Wells don't even get credit. Like if you go back like a year or two ago, like even if you look at it now, probably they wouldn't. If you look at who created the NAACP, her name probably wouldn't come up on most sources because they don't even put her name as the thing. But no, by 19, you got to understand, like you had like the Wilmington thing in 1898. You had 1900s, a lot of race riots that was happening, and by then they were starting to come back in. Like, well, a lot of black men was armed and stuff like that. But anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But as far as a precursor to the NAACP, you got to understand, it was people like W.E. Du Bois. W.E. Du Bois was going at Ida B. Wells because she was calling them out, you know, the NAACP, and they was like, she shouldn't be a part of it because she's a woman and all this other stuff, you know. So like they rejected her, you know, and especially because she was like, yo, why is this a white leadership? This don't make sense, you know. For now, she shouldn't have been in the group, interracial group. I agree with that. But would this sister be in an interracial group? Because I wouldn't agree with her either. And I would tell her the same thing right now. And I would tell Ida B. Wells the same thing back then. But no, she was I don't see how you can connect it, you know. Now, she was a part of a lot of the founding of a lot of organizations, though. A lot of organizations that was black owned and controlled, you know, and a part of like Garvey's organization and a lot of associations for women that was created by black women and she helped found, and a lot of organizations was just with black men too, you know. So. You just look up just look up the organization she was a part of founding. But she never went at none of them organizations. Notice they didn't have no stuff at her going at Marcus Garvey the same way that she did. She wasn't criticizing Marcus Garvey the way that she was talking about the NAACP. You know, the way that this sister would probably criticize Marcus Garvey. She wasn't doing that. She was working with him and supporting him, was like his secretary, or not a secretary, but worked with him in his office and all that stuff for a while, you know. But then they got into an argument, you know, but it is what it is, you know.
Also, quote, when the lives of men, women, and children are at stake, when the inhumane butchers of the innocent attempt to justify their barbarism by fastening up upon a whole race a blue
And mind you, the reason why she wrote the lynch law, the first thing she did in 1894 when she wrote that book, it was because of her friend getting lynched. That's what made her aware. It was her actual lived experience of one of her best friends, like the godfather of her children, or whatever it was, like the godfather of his children or something like that. I think she was the godfather of his children, and because she was cool with the wife or whatever, but there was one of her friends, and she realized what happened, and that's what made her start writing about it in the first place, as opposed to like church scandals and just different stuff. Of course she wrote about you know fairness like every other black person did, but that's when she started her lynch thing, when it happened to her. So I don't know if it had anything to do with the NAACP that didn't even exist yet.
Obloquy, obloquy, whatever, the obloquy of the most infamous of crimes, it is little less than criminal to apologize for the butchers. Today and tomorrow, repudiate the apology by declaring it a figure of speech. So she's basically like writing to the black people like, girl, they out here killing us, and they trying to basically say it's because this, that, and the third, but we know it's something different. And I'm over here to tell y'all, and I'm writing as Lola. I'm Lola. I'm a ghostwriter. Lola the ghostwriter, girl, I'm over here telling y'all this is all some bull crap. They just over there killing them black people for no reason. And again, that is part of the hijack. Hold on, let me see something before I move on. Wells was a scam too. Because how all of this keep happening over fuse? And she became the Rosa Parks of the train rails, right? This is back then, before we had a bus. Now, this tells me that even the Rosa Parks thing, we already know that was a scam, but it's giving Ida B. Wells was a scam too. Because how all of this keep happening over and over and over again. Anyway, let's get into what happened. It says on May 4th, 18...
Now, Rosa Parks took her thing from a young sister in Virginia who was like 16 years old. According to the story, she couldn't do it because she was pregnant. That's who Rosa Parks did it from, a sister named Colvette or COVID or something like that. But that's who she did. And yeah, they did stage that. And again, this was like 80 years before that. That's like saying, we had something to do with like the whole stuff with Malcolm X and Martin Luther King during that time. That's like saying this generation had something to do with that generation, because she did this like 70, 80 years before. She did it before Rosa Parks was born, probably.
1884, Wells Barnett undertook her commute to Shelby County on the Chesapeake Bay, Ohio Railroad. Hold on. Didn't she get married in 1894?
Well, this is 1884, and then when that was her job. She was a teacher, and she was working, and she would have to take the train to get to her job as a teacher. And of course, she could only teach black children, so she was a teacher for black children. So,
what year did they say she got married in 1894? What year did Ida B. Wells get married?
Yo, and by the way, speaking of that, her husband was a lawyer, um, Ferdinand Barnett. Let's see here, just because I ain't have to keep looking stuff up, but yeah, so he used to just do free, take cases for free, which is why they struggle with money, really. Because I think later on the sister be like, yo, Ida B. Wells was rich, but they wasn't even really rich, because her husband was a lawyer, and he often did free cases for black people, you know what I'm saying, that got discriminated against. Now, y'all agree with the integration thing, which is why I'm like surprised that y'all would be against this. Now, I would have been not for the integration thing, but who knows what I would have been thinking in 1918 or whatever. So, these are some of the cases that her husband did, and that's why they was kind of struggling with money, and they was like, and that's why she had to get money from like sisters like her, who was a rich person, who was rich, but not rich, but had money enough to fund her and did fundraising stuff.
Yeah, 1895. So this is before she was married. Okay. I was about to say, bitch, you better not be done had no husband and you ride no train. Because Rosa Parks had a husband and she was on the train screwing with the porters. Allegedly. Okay. All right. It says May 4th, 1884, Wells Barnett undertook her commute to Shelby County on the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad. She purchased a first class.
I don't even know where she got that from.
But the conductor ordered her to move to the smoking car. After being forcefully dragged off the train, Wells Barnett noted that the white passengers stood on the seats so that they could get a good view and continued applauding the conductor for his brave stand. It says she retaliated by suing the Ohio Railway Company and initially won compensation for the harassment. However, the Tennessee State Supreme Court later reversed the decision, and it says still the case reflects Wells Barnett's early commitment to legal equity. Let me tell you something. That sounds like it was staged.
No. All right. See, this is the case right here, right? Now, this is the thing, right? See, during that time, right, they had what they call the ladies' car, but then they had the smokers' car, right, where all the dudes went, including the white dudes. So when she was on the train, it's just like what they would say, "Oh, you got to get up," and you would say no. Unless I guess a lot of black people would say yes, I guess. But do I even have it? All right.
In 1884, a young black school teacher bought a first-class train ticket. When the conductor tried to drag her out of her seat, she bit his hand, braced against the seat, and refused to move. Then she did something almost no black woman in the South was supposed to be able to do. She sued the railroad, and she won. Her name was Ida B. Wells, and that was only the beginning. We remember Rosa Parks. We should. But 71 years before Montgomery, Ida B. Wells was thrown off a train for the same reason and took the company to court. History almost lost her anyway. She was written out of the founding story of the organization she helped build. Her printing.
Like, see, now she's getting blamed for it, but she was also written out of it at the same time. All right. Now, this was what they was saying before, because they was like, yeah, why don't they mention her in the NAACP? Because she was against it, you know what I'm saying? Like, after she helped create it. No, Rosa Parks was not the first. But Rosa Parks wasn't even the first then. She took like after what is said now you would say that's incident with the young sister who was 16 years old on the bus in Virginia. Something COVID or something. I'm pretty sure it's a movie or something about it. That's the sister who actually did it. And then the NAACP and Rosa Parks took part of that. And this is why I be trying to tell y'all about Thurgood Marshall and stuff, you know what I'm saying? Because Thurgood Marshall, just like Brown versus the Board of Education and integration itself, right? Even how integration came up in the first place during this time, Plessy versus Ferguson, it was the train company, not black people suing to get to for rights on the train. It was the train company because they didn't want to have to make cars specifically for black people because it would cost them more money. They was just trying to make money. So they sued using a white boy, right? But he had quote unquote a drop of black blood. So then that's what they said, Plessy versus Ferguson, separate but equal, right? And this was around this time, right? And see, when Brown versus Board of Education, it was originally because they was like, yo, black children had to walk to school like 5 to 10 miles. Like 5 years old, you got to walk home in the dark 5 miles. You want your 5-year-old daughter walking home? Especially in that time, or even in the 60s or whatever. But they wanted either you got to give us our buses, right? So we can continue going to our schools, but you got to give us our stuff separate but equal, right? But it was Thurgood Marshall and the NAACP who came through and said, well, we cannot be, because they originally won the original case like separate but equal, and they was gonna say, well, all right, we're gonna give you y'all keep y'all stuff over there, we're gonna give you equal funding. Now they would have had to fight for it, but they fought to go to school with them, so it is what it is, you know. But I don't know, my bad, y'all. I don't mean to keep rambling, but listen, this don't have nothing to do with it, in other words.
She was written out of the founding story of the organization she helped build. Her printing press was destroyed. A mob promised to kill her if she ever came home. This is the story of how one woman fought the deadliest terror of her time, Springs, born enslaved, siblings together. Before she was ever a juror and sued. In 1883, a conductor ordered her out of the first class ladies' car and into the smoking car because she was black. She had paid for that seat. She refused. It took several men to physically drag her off the train, and the white passengers stood and applauded. Most people would have gone home and swallowed it. Ida hired a lawyer and sued. In December 1884, a court awarded her $500. 3 years later, the Tennessee Supreme Court took it all back. But something had been lit. Ida started writing, under the pen name Iola, about what it actually felt like to be black in the New South. She bought into a black newspaper, the Memphis Free Speech, and became its editor. She had found the weapon she'd use for the rest of her life. On March 9th, 1892, 3 black men were lynched in Memphis. One of them,
Now keep in mind, right? Because wasn't like she was writing because she was already a writer. That's what people that name comes from when she was, because understand she was a teacher, but her passion was writing, you know. But the thing that was you had to break it down, you know. But anyway, let
Thomas
me hurry up.
Moss, was Ida's close friend, the godfather of her first child. Their crime was that their store, the People's Grocery, was successful and had pulled customers away from a white-owned store nearby. They were dragged from a jail cell and murdered. That changed everything Ida believed. She had assumed lynching punished real crimes. Now she knew better. So she investigated. She traveled to the sites. She collected the names, the dates, the newspaper's own words, and she published the numbers. In Southern Horrors and the Red Record, she laid out lynching as data, hundreds of killings, and in case after case, no crime at all. She proved with evidence that the excuse was a lie. This was investigative data journalism decades before the term existed. Memphis answered the way mobs answer. While she was traveling, a white crowd destroyed the free speech offices and warned that if Ida B. Wells ever set foot in Memphis again, she would be hanged. She was 30 and she could never safely go home. So she took the fight everywhere else, across the North and twice across the ocean to Britain, shaming American lynching before the world. In 19
But anyway, the point of the case is, right, the reason why, which was important, was that because she was a Negro, therefore she could not be a lady, right? Therefore she lost the case, you know. Um, so that was with this case.
And it sounds like it was something that they kept restaging over and over again. And doesn't it have the NAACP written all over it? Remember.
And again, now you telling me the precursor was also going on to the NAACP in 1884 too, RBG? Was the precursor still going on 20 years before, 23 years before, or 25 years before? That's a long precursor now. And I'm pretty sure everything is a precursor to something. Everything leads to something else, you know. Uh, Ida B. Wells' existence lead to this sister talking about it today. So yeah, I'm pretty sure there was precursors.
Remember, the NAACP is 100% behind Rosa Parks when she does it in the 1950s or the 60s. So my thing is, how does Ida B. Wells have the exact similar mirroring situation?
And by the way, and during World War I, black people did be like, "Oh, well, yeah, I support the NAACP." But by World War II in the 1940s, black people was off the NAACP already. By the 1940s, if you look at interviews with black people and they asking them about or even movies when they talk depicting, they like, "Oh, I'm not part of that damn NAACP." Like, nah, people was off of that stuff by then, you know. But
on a train 100 years earlier. It's giving, it's wash, rinse, repeat. That's what it's giving to me. But again, all of these things are needed because when they write her story in his story, they need us to believe that she was on our side. That's cap. That's cap. Let's get into this women's suffrage.
now, brother, 20 years before my brother, though, 20 years before the NAACP, 25 years before the NAACP existed, they was behind that too. All
Really
right.
quick. Because remember, her whole point is her whole agenda, in my opinion, Ida B. Wells' agenda is not for black people. It is for white women. That is her agenda. And it wasn't just her. Who was the lady who said,
Now, everything that she's read that we've talked about, she was exposing how white bitches ain't shit. Or, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. But how white bitches be lying. Right? Everything like that we talked about. And how she was standing up for her brother at that. You know what I'm saying? Who was married to a black woman. She was married to a black man, a black lawyer at that. Right? That's why I'm like, all right, I don't know about the integration thing, right? Because she was against Booker T. Washington saying that stuff, and That's a reason or part of the reason why she was debating with W.E. Du Bois, because she's like, this ain't no black organization, you know. So I don't know. What up, my brother Bakari? I know, my brother. I know it is a never-ending saga, but I will tell you this. She better have a video on here talking about how John Brown ain't real. I'm telling you right now. And anybody who say that Harriet Tubman didn't hold Ida B. Wells' baby better have a video that say John Brown ain't real either.
ain't our woman? Sophie B. Wright. It's another one.
By the way, no, that's not the right one.
His story, they need us to believe that she was on our side. That's cap. That's cap. Let's get into this women's suffrage really quickly. Because remember, her whole point is her whole agenda, in my opinion, Ida B. Wells' agenda is not for black people. It is for white women. That is her agenda. And it wasn't just her. Who was the lady who said, ain't our woman? Sophie B. Wright. It's another one. A lot of.
By the way, it was Sojourner Truth, who was also born into slavery. These is women who was born into slavery, right? And even in the context of what I say and to about Booker T. Washington, it is always in the context as that man was born into slavery. Do you not understand that? How crazy now I believe we all born into slavery, but he was on the chattels. He was born into chattel slavery. Right. So I don't ever talk about him without that being a factor. Now I might say people may not I may need to make it a lot more clear, but you have to understand that this sister was born into slavery. You know what I mean? But now she was free when she was 3 years old, quote unquote free when she was 3 years old.
Black women agenda was for white women. Do you hear me? Her agenda is not for black women. Her agenda coming to the South is for white women and white women only. Let's get into it. Her suffrage activist for the history books. Now, they writing this for all women, but remember, she started out fighting for black women. Quote, if this work can contribute in any.
Now, notice this. This is somebody's article in my brother, what's his name? Goddamn Hardcore. He did the same thing with JFK. Notice this. This is articles that people present about her when they try to take what she's done and try to present it as if something else. They would try to present it as if this sister was a feminist and fighting for the rights of women, as if her whole thing wasn't about exposing how white bitches is lying about black men. So how is, if the thing that she's, because they try to make it like, oh well, it's the lynch, but like let's examine why we're being lynched, because we are because of economic purposes, right? How they're using white bitches, how they're lying, how these black men, because the red record, if she looked at it, and if she looked at the lynch law, which is like 30 pages, she would be like, yo, these black men are innocent and good men doing what they're supposed to do. And they're being lynched for being insolent. And that was the word I was thinking of before, insolent. They were being insolent. They were, doing this, being accused of that. You can look at the red record, and then to turn around and say she was for all women and all of this other stuff when she had constant beef with that. Now, I'm gonna say it again, like I said back then and now, and I would tell her if I was born back then, we might have had beef that y'all would be reading about now if I was born back then. Because I would have been like, Ida B. Wells, why in the hell is you going to this white bitch march? That ain't gonna do nothing. But if y'all can't understand it in now today, what in the hell makes you think that she gonna understand it in 1910 or something? Now she probably should have understood it in 1910, so that's why I don't give her a pass. But y'all should understand that same concept today when you sit here and talk about. Because how are you not doing the same when you say I'm American, I'm this, I'm that, And like I said, I'm not getting into that whole FBA versus this versus that thing. You know what I'm saying? Because I understand the whole concept behind it. But the problem is, like, yo, we aren't even putting context to our militancy. You know what I'm saying? So we doing stuff for the wrong damn reasons anyway. But anyway, man.
Anyway, toward providing this, and at the same time arouse the conscience of the American people to a demand for justice to every citizen. Are y'all listening? Remember, she's supposed to be down here for black people.
Yeah, did she say every citizen should have a Winchester rifle in their home, or did she say the black family should have a Winchester rifle in the home? She didn't say nothing about no damn women rights. She was like, yo, y'all lynching our young black men, our young black boys, and all of that stuff. Right? And she said black families need to defend themselves. And yes, Booker T. Washington did say, yo, Ida B. Wells, you're out of control talking about defending ourselves. You know what I'm saying? And we need to solve this a different way. And we don't need to talk about Winchester rifles in the home. That's out of control. And yeah, I would have disagreed with him then, and I disagree with him now. I would have been on Ida B. Wells' side, you know what I'm saying?
But in her
And
right,
even in her disagreement with Marcus Garvey, she never, you noticed this, right? She never went at Marcus Garvey the way that she did to Booker T. Washington, the way that she did to W.E. Du Bois. She always said, yo, I believe in Marcus Garvey and I support everything he's doing. I'm just worried about how he's doing it. You know what I'm saying? And maybe she shouldn't have said that either. But at least she never went at that brother for trying to get black people to do something. And notice how she supported every single movement that it was to get black people something, not black women, not all women. She never said nothing about all women. What did she say? Herself, right? Um, she said, I didn't hope I did women her famous quote in the Southern Horrors, she wrote, um, if this work can contribute in any way to proving as to demand for justice, she said, I feel like I hope that I've done my race a disservice. Basically, if I can find a way to stop these lynches at any time, then I hope I've done my people a service. And she said time and time again, right, that she was a black only, you know what I'm saying? Um, right. and her whole crusade started. See, like I said, the thing that they both were race first, black first, like which this sister may not even be able to say. I hope she can at least say black people in America first, you know what I'm saying? And black people after that globally. But I'm not even sure that we can even do that. But she, even Ida B. Wells said that I'm race first and prioritize black economic independence, self-help, and unity, which is why she even met him and went with him in the first place, right? Which I'm not even sure this sister agrees with, but I agree with it.
She talking about every citizen. Look, people to a demand for justice to every citizen and punishment by law for the lawless. I shall feel I have done my race a service, okay? It says she fought tirelessly for the right for all women. That's that all inclusive.
Now, notice Ida B. Wells ain't say nothing about that. Whoever wrote this said she did this. What? Ida B. Wells, like, again, like, do I agree with her going to that damn march and stuff? But when they told her as to get to the back, she was like, fuck yeah. All right, so here it is. Wells engaged bitter public war with Frances Wooler. I think she about to name her. I guess she was a famous white um, feminist chick, you know what I'm saying? Now, she went to Britain, I would have been like, how to be Wells, what are you doing? Go to Ghana or something, you know what I mean? Don't go to no damn Britain. But let's see. She, of course, won at Susan B. Anthony. Now, I don't know about the whole Friends thing, you know what I'm saying? Because How to Be Wells would tell you herself she didn't even have any friends, whether no matter if they was black too, because I do the same thing as her, you know. And I guess I'll show it now before I get, it might come up later, but um, let's see. Here. Okay, yeah. So Ida B. Wells was like, yeah, she didn't get along with many people in her biography that she was writing. And she was like, she acknowledged that she frequently clashed with others because she refused to compromise her principles or stay silent to keep the peace. And I be doing the same thing, I ain't gonna lie. And I know people in my life would tell you it'd be making it difficult because I'd be like, I can't shut up. You know what I mean? I be trying to shut up sometimes, but I can't, And she said, and maybe I should adopt this too, because I never, rather than chalking it up to a negative attitude, she explained that it is uncompromising dedication to the truth and justice. It had made her appear difficult and radical and abrasive to those who preferred moderation, right? And this is what made her actually my hero for real, because I understand that 100%. You know what I'm saying? It's all of this stuff is because she couldn't keep her mouth shut and disagree with that. And again, especially during this time where she challenged black, you heard even with Booker T. Washington talking about you're a woman and you haven't found a wife, or I mean a husband and all that stuff, as if that has something to do with her leadership, abilities. And I ain't not saying that she should have been a thing. Now she um famously confronted these, but again, like I said, why was she even dealing with them in the first place? And I get on y'all all the time the same way, but
Inclusive shit. That's that people of color shit. She fought tirelessly for the right for all women to vote, despite facing racism within the suffrage movement. On August 18, 1920, Congress ratified the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, giving women the right to vote. Now, I forgot to bring that up. The 19th Amendment happened, and in the 19th Amendment, it's not all states, but in the 19th Amendment, it's giving.
Now, mind you, there was no NAACP trying to get women to vote, black women to vote in the 1890s, because not even the white bitches could vote in the 1890s, right? This is when it starts coming along, and the black women still can't vote. So I'm not sure what that meant.
Women the right to vote.
For the 92%.
Those states are as follows. Hold on, don't give me the line. What were the states in the 19th Amendment's right to vote for women? I'm about to tell you right now. I had it all. Okay. Territory of Wyoming, Utah, Washington, Montana, Alaska. They got California. No, it said the following territories provided full voting rights before statehood. So Wyoming, Utah, Washington, Montana, and Alaska. They already had the full rights. Then it said the following states granted women the right to vote prior to the 19th Amendment. So now add Wyoming, Colorado.
Now, basically, after the 19th Amendment, all states did it, because that's what the amendment is, And no, black women still could not vote at this time, right?
None of the black women in the South have the right to vote. And
none of the black women anywhere have the right to vote.
Women with their suffrage. But remember, they don't know, the black women in the South during this time don't know that when she come down there, she's not coming to just help you. As a matter of fact, she's not coming down.
Now, she's not coming down. She's from down there. That's where she's from. She's one of the ones who's down there.
Help you at all. She's coming to use you to help them. Let's get back into it. It says, but sadly, then as now, the law didn't apply equally to all. Due to the prevalence of Jim Crow laws, it took another 45 years and the passage of the Voting Rights Act for black women to be able to cast their ballots. While women's suffrage has been associated with white women like Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, it's beyond time for us to recognize that pioneering black activists like Ida B. Wells were fighting for a bigger battle against sex.
Now, mind you, keep in mind, right, you could tell by the language that this is probably one of these modern black feminists who's writing this article. And they saying, well, while feminism has been known with white women, because it's all been all about propping white bitches up, of course, right, that black women don't get recognized for their efforts, which is kind of dumb that they're still putting efforts into something like that. But the point is, right, like, this is black feminist saying writing this article. That's why it's an article by somebody else and not her actual words. Like, because when they say she has been associated, it leaves out that how she called Ida B. Wells was saying the same thing this sister was saying, like, well, these white bitches was full of it,
Sexism and racism and face obstacles within their own movement. Let's pause this. Black American women during this time are suffering, and white women during this time are suffering. But these are two different sufferings.
White bitches is not suffering.
Things that black women in the...
See, this is the thing. We like to be like, oh, the poor white bitches, they was living like kings on behalf of you, sister, of y'all sisters. You know what I'm saying? Come on, man. Y'all gotta. This is why they're the most dangerous species in the universe, because they can make y'all believe that they were suffering, because the Neanderthal male is such a disgusting species that you would think that the Neanderthal female is nowhere that they could be just as disgusting, if not more, But anyway, like, she's taking this against somebody who's trying to prove, like, and how everybody's using her name, like, other than what she said herself, She's arguing this article by whoever wrote this.
South are complaining about are not the things that white women in the South are complaining about. They're living two totally, completely different lives. So the fact that Ida B. Wells came to the South and took those black women's suffrage and then combined it with all women is what listen, I don't know if y'all caught on yet. That is the tactic. The tactic to take from you is to combine first and then take and extract next.
See, and I understand what the sister is saying. Is just the fact that she doesn't realize that the people that have done heroic stuff and stood up the way that this sister have, they're going to try to display it as in this love everybody stuff, you know what I'm saying? But that's not her words. She said black families, not black women, not the women, period. She said black families, black men and women need to be armed and protect themselves. That was her message. It was for black people to actually get out of the South and go to and that's when she went to Chicago and all that stuff, you know.
They did it with
I
civil
gotta get
rights.
off of
They're
here
literally
soon though,
doing it
y'all,
with Black America in
because
these
I'm not even
Africans.
going
This is
to.
why every time you turn around, you're African. They're trying to combine us first so that they can take from us. That's what Ida B. Wells did to black women in the South. There were black American women with specific suffrages that white women did not have. And then she came down there and said,
By the way, now this is kind of a conundrum, right? Now, if there was black women who was from other places here in the 1890s, would that make them eligible? Um, Now, Ida B. Wells don't have nothing to do with that because she was a black person in America, and there was no immigration stuff like that at the time. So that's kind of an irrelevant point. But if they was combining the two, then would that mean that they would be FBA? I guess. I guess not, because you would have to go to 1865, I think, by the rules. I don't know. I'm not sure the rules, but he said she crazy. I think that I understand it. It's just that the sister didn't do enough research first before coming on here, and then is using certain talking points and don't realize that whatever she's trying to blame on Ida B. Wells, she's actually doing it by saying, yo, us as Americans and stuff like that. And people will probably look at that as like whatever, but the fact is we've never been citizens, which is why you're saying we need a hate crime bill, which I actually disagree with. You know, the only way to stop that is by doing what you got to do, because no bill that ever been passed, quote unquote, for us, like, put it this way, in history it has been used against us more than we have used it. And you look up any of these bills, you know what I'm saying, yeah, lynching bills probably go against, like, I'm not sure anybody who actually got charged with a lynching bill or anything like that, but even the 15th Amendment, right? Corporations use that to sue people more than black people have. And history back then, all of that stuff, you know.
no, we're going to do suffrage for all women. But this is the gag. The white women aren't the ones that's going through it like the black women. It kind of goes off with the same shit I talked about earlier with Funky Dineva and the TSs down there with the LGBTQ. Basically, the white women would benefit off of the black people's pain. Her steal from them, and then we're going to swipe her up out of there and write her off in history like she was the best thing since sliced bread. That's what they've been doing with all of these leaders, is wash, rinse, repeat.
Now, it's actually good because I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't hear anybody talking about Ida B. Wells until I mentioned it, and then I started hearing a few people. Of course, there was videos on Ida B. Wells on here, of course, you know. But I'm talking about people talking and mentioning that. So I'm glad that they're mentioning it, and I wish that it was a audio thing of you know. Oh damn! Here we go. This was what I was looking for earlier with the good brother Booker T. Washington, but that's another subject. Let's see. Um, Ida B. Wells. Let's see what she said. Um, let's see what she said. Okay, yeah. So Ida B. Wells famously advocated that Black Americans, not Black women, not women, but Black Americans. But she didn't say black. She said black vote. Period. keep a Winchester rifle or shot. You see how this stuff, like when you read these articles, that's why I was trying to tell the brother about that JFK article. It sounded like a damn white boy trying to, or a damn, you know, one of them trying to fit in. Like, that's not their words, right? She said, of the many lessons requested of the Afro American by Memphis Troubles, perhaps the most important is that a Winchester rifle should have a place of honor in every black home, and it should be used for that protection which the law refuses to give. She said something that we are scared because we'll be like, well, look what they did to them. Look what they did to her. Look like what they did to them. Now, and another thing that you probably won't see, but and I will have to go through and find it, but I ain't feel like doing that. But let me see. All right, so people don't realize because they was like she died suddenly, or she fell ill suddenly, but a lot of her family um think that she was poisoned, right? And then, of course they ain't gonna say it on here, but they often threaten her life, and a lot of people feel like she was poisoned because she was just running for a political office, trying to run for. And again, I would have probably told her like, hey, Ida B. Wells, I don't know, I ain't voting for the lesser of two evils, but do your thing. But as soon as she stopped running, she just got sick and died, and most of her family believed that she, was poisoned. But where was it? Right. But again, like I wish there could be her saying it, but that's the whole point, man, of the many lessons that we've learned by our troubles. Perhaps the most important is that a Winchester rifle should have the place of honor in every black home, and it should be used for the protection which the law refuses to give. She didn't say we need to go out here and protest for Voters' Rights Act and that we citizens and all this other stuff. You know what I'm saying? She said we gotta protect ourselves because that's the only justice that we'll ever get. You know what I mean? But anyway, man, I don't know what to tell you. I appreciate y'all for listening, man. Shouts out to my good brother, brother Bakari. I appreciate you for coming through, my brother. Shouts out to Karma 804. Shouts out to RBG, KW Don 7, Jermaine Thompson, Raw, Willie Rivers. Yo, I definitely appreciate all of y'all for listening, man. My bad, yo. I got triggered by this because y'all already know, man. If I had to pick a hero, it'd still be Ida B. Wells. You know what I mean? So I gotta say that. But I will let this sister have the last words, man.
I think what you're trying to ask is why am I so insistent upon giving out to them that blackness, that black power, that black pushing them to identify with black culture. I think that's what you're asking. I have no choice over it. In the first place, to me, we are the most beautiful creatures in the whole world, black people. I mean, and I mean that in every sense, outside and inside. And to me, we have a culture that is surpassed by no other civilization, but we don't know anything about it. So again, I think I've said this before in the same interview. I think at some time before, my job is to somehow make them curious enough or persuade them by hook or crook to get more aware of themselves and where they came from and what they are into and what is already there, and just to bring it out. This is what compels me to compel them. And I will do it by whatever means necessary when I'm
Facts. Y'all gonna learn one way or another, man. But anyway, as always, man, we have got to start standing for something. And by the way, John Brown was not real, y'all. So I hope that's her next video. It better be. But anyway, as always, man, we have got to start standing for something, or we're gonna keep falling for anything.